In the previous lecture we were discussing about the concept of hydrodynamically and thermally fully developed flow. We discussed about the consequences of hydrodynamic and thermally fully developed flow in terms of expressing a non-dimensional temperature and a non-dimensional velocity. Now we have seen that the term del T del X can be expressed in terms of d theta dx, where theta is T minus T wall by Tm minus T wall. Sorry, dTm dx. So in terms of theta and dTm dx. So for constant wall temperature it is theta into dTm dx, and for constant wall heat flux it is just dTm dx without involving theta. That much we discussed in the previous class. Now irrespective of the boundary condition, this parameter is always involved. So one thing we have been successful in reducing the dimensionality of the problem, that when we are expressing del T del X in terms of dTm dx, we are converting like a 2-dimensional or a 3-dimensional problem to an effective 1-dimensional problem. But the question is how to calculate this dTm dx. So for that we will make an overall energy balance. So let us say that this is the channel and we take a control volume like this. Across this control volume we are going to write an energy balance. So when we are going to write an energy balance, there is some energy that is entering, let us say that this length is dx, there is some energy that is leaving. So what is the energy that is entering? In terms of the bulk mean temperature, the bulk mean temperature is an equivalent temperature which would have existed uniformly across the cross section to make the flow of the same energy as that of the actual case. So if Tm is the bulk mean temperature, then what is the rate at which energy is transferred across this section? It is m dot into h. M dot into h is m dot into Cp into Tm. We are considering incompressible fluid, and let us say this one is m dot Cp Tm plus dTm. Then we have heat transfer at the wall. What is the heat transfer at the wall? If the wall heat flux is Q double prime, this may be a constant or it may be a variable. Let us say that the wall heat flux is Q double prime. So what is the heat transfer rate across the wall? Let us say this is a circular pipe of radius r. So if the wall heat flux is Q double prime, what is the rate of heat transfer? Q double prime into 2 pi r dx, right? 2 pi r dx is the surface area of the pipe. So 2 pi r dx is nothing but perimeter into dx. So to generalize it for any section, we will write it as Q double prime into perimeter into dx. So we can write for this control volume, rate of energy in minus rate of energy out plus rate of energy generated so this is 0 because it is steady flow and steady state. Rate of energy generation is 0, that we are not considering in this problem. If there is some rate of energy generation, we can accommodate this in this formulation very easily. Rate of energy in is m dot Cp Tm plus Q double prime P dx. What is the rate of energy out? M dot Cp Tm plus dTm Now this equation is not perfect, but it has an approximation. My question is, what is that approximation? What is that approximation that is there in this equation? This is not exactly correct. Yes? No, it is not taken as constant. Even if it is a function of x, it is true, because we have taken a small element over which it will be constant. It q double dash, this may be function of x. So in the axial direction, we have considered that there is heat transfer due to fluid flow, but we have not considered that there is heat transfer due to axial conduction. So we have neglected axial conduction. So ideally we should have taken a heat flux minus k dTm dx here and minus k dTm dx at x plus dx here. So we had not taken any axial conduction. So we have neglected axial conduction, and that is valid in many practical problems where advection is much more dominating than axial conduction. So this very importantly is valid neglecting axial conduction. So now from this equation you can write dTm dx is equal to okay. Q double dash P by m dot Cp. Now can you tell from here that dTm dx is constant if wall heat flux is constant? Yes or no? Yes, because for steady flow rate m dot is constant, we assume that the properties are constant, then the perimeter of the cross section, it is a constant for the geometry that we are considering. So if the wall heat flux is constant, then dTm dx is constant. So we had earlier shown that for constant wall heat flux, del T del x is equal to dTm dx is equal to dTw dx is equal to constant. Okay, but not for any general constant wall heat flux, for constant wall heat flux and thermally fully developed flow. Okay. So now we come to an inference that this is a constant for constant wall heat flux, not just in the thermally fully developed flow region but over the entire region, because this overall energy balance theory is very general, it does not take into account whether it is thermally fully developed or not. It is just a simple energy balance using the definition of bulk mean temperature, that is converting the multidimensional problem to a one dimensional problem, but it does not take into account whether it is thermally fully developed or not. So the conclusion is that even if the flow is not thermally fully developed, for constant wall heat flux dTm dx is a constant, but this is still an approximation because it has neglected axial conduction. If you do not neglect axial conduction, that is not true, whereas this is exactly true, does not matter whether axial conduction is there or not. Okay. So we can make a graph of say T versus x for constant wall heat flux. So when we plot T versus x, we essentially want to plot basically Tm and T wall, because we are now converting it to one dimensional problems where the functions of x are Tm and T wall. So let us say that T wall is greater than Tm. Now what is the graph of Tm versus x? It will be a straight line because dTm dx is a constant. Assuming that axial conduction is negligible, it is a single straight line throughout. Otherwise, in the thermally developing region, this may not be a constant, so it may be a curve, and then in the thermally fully developed region it will be a constant, that formula. So let us make a sketch of this is Tm versus x. Assuming that the wall is heated, now what will be the graph of T wall versus x? Assuming T wall is greater than Tm. So first that graph should be above this if it is heated. Then how will the graph look like? See, dt wall dx is a constant only if it is a thermally fully developed flow. So let us say that the flow becomes thermally fully developed from here. So up to this it will be a curve, beyond this it will be a straight line. What straight line? Straight line parallel to this, because dTm dx equal to dt wall dx. So the slopes of these two straight lines are equal in the thermally fully developed region. So this is T wall as a function of x. Okay. Now, so this is the case of constant wall heat flux. Let us study the qualitative behavior of constant wall temperature. Maybe first we study it quantitatively and then we show it in a plot. So the case of constant wall temperature. So dTm dx is equal to q double prime p by m dot Cp. How can you write q double prime in terms of the heat transfer coefficient H? Q double prime equal to what? H into Tm minus Tw or Tw minus Tm. So when you are considering q double prime, look at this figure. Here the sign convention is the heat transfer is from the wall to the fluid, that means T wall minus Tm, right. If it is the opposite, the sign itself will take care. So in place of q double prime, we will take H into T wall minus Tm. So we can write d of T wall minus Tm divided by T wall minus Tm is equal to minus P into H by m dot Cp dx. So what we have done is we have written dTm dx as d of ddx of Tm minus T wall, because T wall is a constant, it does not matter whether we take it inside the derivative or not, it will make no difference because dt wall dx is 0 for constant T wall. Okay. And then this minus sign is absorbed because we have converted Tm minus T wall to T wall minus Tm. So it is of the form dz by z, so it will be log of this. So ln of T wall minus Tm is equal to minus P by m dot Cp integral of H dx from x equal to 0 to x equal to L, where L is the total length of the channel or the pipe. This of course we have to put a definite limit from x equal to 0 to x equal to L. X equal to 0 is the starting and x equal to L is the ending of the channel. So we can write ln of delta TL by delta T0, where delta T is Tm minus T wall minus Tm is equal to, so what is this? This is the average heat transfer coefficient times L. So minus P into L into H average by m dot Cp. Now what is the total heat transfer rate? Q dot, let us say you transfer some heat from the wall to the fluid. So how can you measure what heat has been transferred from the wall to the fluid? Let us say you are doing an experiment. So the situation is that you have some heat, let us say you have a heating coil at the wall, you have a heater at the wall, you are transferring heat to the fluid. So how do you measure that what heat actually has been transferred to the fluid? So you can measure the thermal energy at the inlet and you can measure the thermal energy at the outlet. So the difference between these two thermal energy is the heat that is supplied, thermal energy that is supplied from the wall. So you can say Q dot is nothing but m dot Cp into Tm at x equal to L minus Tm at x equal to 0, right. This is just simple energy balance. So this heat transfer, this is nothing but the change in enthalpy. So if you write the first law of thermodynamics for the control volume, this is what you will get as the heat transfer. There is no work done in this case. So all the heat that is supplied is used to change this m dot Cp into T, that is m dot into H. Of course we neglect the changes in kinetic energy and potential energy. So you can write this as m dot Cp see, we can write this because this T wall is a constant. So it is just adding and subtracting the same constant from the two terms. But why we have done this is because this is the delta T at x equal to L and this is the delta T at x equal to 0. So we can write m dot Cp is equal to Q dot minus Q dot by delta TL minus delta T0. So you can substitute that here and write ln of delta TL by delta T0 perimeter into length is what? The total surface area. So A, so this A is not cross sectional area, this is the surface area, that is 2 pi r into L for a pipe of length, circular pipe of length L. So minus area into H, then in place of m this one you can write Q dot by delta T L minus delta T0. So Q dot is equal to A into H average into delta TL minus delta T0 by ln of delta TL by delta T0. So you can see that normally what is Q dot? A into H into delta T, the temperature difference between the two systems across which the heat transfer is taking place. Here one system is the wall, another is the fluid. So it would have been ideally A into H into T wall minus Tm, but it is not AH into T wall minus Tm, it is AH into this. The reason is that T wall minus Tm is not a constant, it is continuously varying with x. So if you make a plot of say T wall, so T versus x, so for constant T wall, so this is constant T wall, for constant T wall, what is T wall as a function of x? This is T wall constant. What about the Tm? See, look at this equation, dTm dx, so d of T wall minus Tm by T wall minus Tm is this. So that means this T wall minus Tm varies with e to the power minus x, right, because log of this varies with minus x. So this varies, this T wall minus Tm varies with e to the power minus x. So that means Tm has a exponential variation with x. So for constant wall temperature you get, assuming that the wall is again heated, this is Tm as a function of x. This is an exponential curve. Why exponential curve? You can look from the analytical expression. So if we want to say that Q, the rate of heat transfer is equal to A into H into delta T, now the delta T is different, delta T at x equal to 0 is this, then it becomes this, it becomes this, it becomes this, like this. So delta T is continuously varying, so you require some equivalent average delta T. We have shown here by our calculation that average delta T is not this delta T plus this delta T by 2, not, it is this one delta TL by minus delta T0 by ln delta TL by delta T0. This is called as LMTD or log mean temperature difference, logarithmic mean temperature difference. LMTD, logarithmic mean temperature difference. So why do we require a logarithmic mean temperature difference? Because the temperature difference itself is continuously varying. So what would be the logarithmic mean temperature difference if the temperature difference is a constant? Let us say that this T wall is a constant and Tm is a constant, then what would be the logarithmic mean temperature difference? Or T wall like this, Tm like this difference is a constant, then what would be the logarithmic mean temperature difference? No, the logarithmic mean temperature difference physically represents the equivalent temperature difference. So if this difference is a constant, this constant value itself is the logarithmic mean temperature difference. See, for anything you can do it mathematically. How do you do it mathematically? See, if a constant temperature difference is there, then it is delta TL equal to delta T0. So it is 0 by ln1, 0 by 0. You can use L'Hopital's rule to find out what is the logarithmic mean temperature difference. But my question is, why should we do that? From physical understanding we understand that the logarithmic mean temperature difference is the effective average temperature difference between the two fluids if the two fluids temperature are continuously varying, you have to judiciously use that formula, but if the temperature difference itself is a constant, then the logarithmic mean temperature difference will be that constant itself, because it is the equivalent temperature difference. So we can say that, to summarize, so sometimes in short form this is written as delta T Lm, logarithmic mean temperature difference. So this is just a short form of doing it, but it is a very very important parameter, and in one of the later chapters on heat exchanger what you will learn, which is a very important topic for practical engineering applications, this terminology will come over and again. So please make a note of this very important terminology. So we have discussed about the situations of constant wall heat flux and constant wall temperature somewhat qualitatively, that is how the wall temperature and how the bulk mean temperature varies with x. But question is, what is the rate of heat transfer, that is what is the Nusselt number. So we need to discuss about what is the Nusselt number for thermally fully developed flow. So there may be situations when the flow is hydrodynamically fully developed, but it is not thermally fully developed. Like, let me give you an example. So this is hydrodynamic boundary layer. And this is thermal boundary layer. So if you have a fluid, say of value of high Prandtl number, then what will happen, this delta will be significantly more as compared to delta T. So the hydrodynamic boundary layer will grow very fast. So the hydrodynamic boundary layers will merge here and the flow will become hydrodynamically fully developed. So from here to here there is a region when the flow is hydrodynamically fully developed but not thermally fully developed, right. So that kind of problem is known as Gray's problem. This kind of problem is actually in the purview of advanced level of convective heat transfer, so we will not come into that here. There is another type of problem where the flow may be both hydrodynamically and thermally developing, like this region. But in this particular course we will be concentrating on this region where the flow is both hydrodynamically and thermally fully developed, and we will evaluate the Nusselt number for that cases. So hydrodynamically and thermally fully developed flow through parallel plate channel. case 1 constant wall heat flux. So we have seen, so what answer can we expect for these types of problems? What are you assured of when you are solving a problem of thermally fully developed flow? We are interested about the Nusselt number. The Nusselt number will be a constant, that is what is expected. So if we do not come up with a constant Nusselt number, that means something is wrong in our analysis or approach. So the Nusselt number will be a constant and our objective will be to evaluate that constant value. So we have to keep in mind that, see what earlier cases we have studied for evaluation of Nusselt number, flow over a flat plate. Their Nusselt number was of the form of Reynolds number to the power something say half into Prandtl number to the power something say half or 1/3. This kind of expressions we have seen. So Reynolds number to the power m into Prandtl number to the power n. In general, for forced convection, Nusselt number is actually of the form Reynolds number to the power m into Prandtl number to the power n. But for hydrodynamically and thermally fully developed flow, for internal forced convection, that is a special case when Nusselt number becomes a constant. But in general, if you have a situation, even the situation changes if the flow from laminar becomes turbulent. So then you have, you cannot work out those problems analytically, you have to deal with certain correlations based on experimental studies which engineers use for designing a system with a turbulent flow. I will come to one or two such expressions, but before that, remember here we are assuming laminar flow. So constant wall heat flux. Now let us write the governing equation, the energy equation. This is our governing equation. Now tell what will be the simplification. So let us write it with a different color maybe. So in place of del T del X for constant wall heat flux, we can write dTm dx, which is a constant. What about this term? V is equal to 0 for hydrodynamically fully developed flow. So this will be 0. What about this term in the right hand side? Del T del X. Del T del X is what? Del T del X is equal to constant for thermally fully developed flow with constant wall heat flux. Because del T del X is constant, del 2T del X2 is 0. So you can write U dTm dx is equal to alpha del 2T del Y2. Now we will change these variables from T to theta, the non-dimensional temperature which does not vary with X anymore for thermally fully developed flow. Why we want to change the variable? because T is a function of both x and y, but for thermally fully developed flow theta is only a function of y but not a function of x. So theta is T minus T wall by Tm minus T wall. So you can write del T del y remember T wall minus Tm, these are functions of x. So with respect to y derivative those are like constants. So similarly the second derivative and what is dTm dx? dTm dx is, what is that expression? Q double dash P by m dot Cp, right? So Q double dash, in place of P what is, let us draw a parallel plate channel. Let us say that the width is B and height is 2h with the center line is y equal to 0. So what is the perimeter? So before that let us write another step. What is m dot? M dot is rho u average into A into Cp by perimeter. So basically we have to calculate perimeter by area. So perimeter by area, what is perimeter? Or let us calculate area by perimeter, whatever, we will invert that. Area by perimeter, what is that? B into 2h by 2 into B plus 2h, right. Now we have to consider a limit while calculating this area by perimeter. What is that limit? Limit is that h by B tends to 0, because by definition the parallel plate channel the width is infinitely large. So what we will do is we will divide both numerator and denominator by B. So this becomes 2h by 2 into 1 plus 2h by B. So this will become h as h by B tends to 0, right. So when h by B tends to 0, this term is 0, this term is 1 and these two get cancelled. So it becomes h. So you can write dTm dx is equal to Q double prime into perimeter by area is 1 by h rho u average Cp. So u dTm dx is u by u average. So we are writing this equation, this differential equation. U dTm dx is u by u average into Q double prime by rho h Cp is equal to alpha, alpha is k by rho Cp into Tm minus T wall into d2 theta dy2. okay. So then rho Cp gets cancelled, rho Cp, right. In place of Q wall what we can write? Q wall is H into what? H into T wall minus Tm. So we can write d2 theta dy2 plus it becomes H, so Q wall by H, yes, d2 theta dy2 plus U by U average into H by Hk equal to 0, right. Now you can non-dimensionalize this, right. You can define a new parameter y bar as y by h, okay. So if you define a new parameter y bar as y by h, then this will be d2 theta dy2 plus u by u bar h by k is equal to 0. So there will be a 1 by h square here, that h square coming here will make it h by k. So in a non-dimensional form this becomes what? This is the Nusselt number based on h, and what is this? This is the velocity profile. This is where fluid mechanics comes into the heat transfer calculation. So the answer how theta will vary with y will depend on what? Will depend on the velocity profile. Now there are many types of velocity profiles which are possible, like there may be a case when molten metal is flowing very slowly. So in that case the entire velocity profile may be almost uniform, and that is called as a plug flow or slug flow. So if you have a plug flow or a slug flow, that means uniform velocity profile, then what is u by u average? 1, right. So that is a very special case, very simple algebra to deal with. I am not working it out here, but please take it as a homework and complete it by yourself, that consider a plug flow with u by u average is equal to 1, then complete the remaining derivation. I will do the derivation for a more involved scenario when u by u average is not equal to 1, but it is a fully developed pressure driven flow, that is Poiseuille flow. So for a plain Poiseuille flow, what is the velocity profile? U by u average is equal to 3 by 2 into 1 minus y square by h square. This was derived by Professor Shom when he was discussing about the exact solutions of Navier-Stokes equation. So you substitute that here. So this is like from the fully developed flow Navier-Stokes equation you can derive, there is no problem associated with this. So now what are the boundary conditions? This is y bar, this is non-dimensional y. What are the boundary conditions? At y bar equal to 0, what is the boundary condition? Yes? y bar equal to 0 is the center line. What is the boundary condition for theta at the center line? Top wall and bottom wall are having symmetric boundary condition. So d theta dy equal to 0 at y equal to 0, it is the center line symmetry. And at non-dimensional y is equal to 1, that is the wall. What is theta? Remember the definition of theta, t minus t wall by tm minus t wall. So theta is 0. So with this you have d2 theta dy2 is equal to some function of y, let us say this is f y bar into Nusselt number with a minus sign. So d theta dy is equal to minus Nusselt number integral of fy dy plus some constant C1. So when you integrate, you will get theta is equal to so this is, let us say, f1y right. I have just written it generically. This integration is very easy because this is a simple polynomial. I do not waste time by doing the integration. I want to give you the framework in which you can just put the numbers and values. So you can evaluate the constant C1 and C2. You can evaluate the constant C1, C2 by using these two boundary conditions. But does this solve the problem? You have an expression for theta is equal to a function of some function f2 Nusselt number and y. These are all non-dimensional y. So make this as y bar. These are all non-dimensional y. But this does not tell you explicitly theta as a function of y, because you do not still know what is Nusselt number, what is the value of the Nusselt number. In fact, obtaining that is the objective. And remember that although I have written it as a function of Nusselt number and y, actually Nusselt number is separated from the function of y. It is Nusselt number into some function of y, because I mean it is not mixed with y. Nusselt number is outside this integration. So it will come out to be Nusselt number into some function of y. Now you might argue that yes, we have used two boundary conditions for a second order differential equation. So what makes the situation that still the problem is not completely solved? One of the reasons is that actually this boundary condition theta equal to 0 at wall is not actually giving you any new information, because theta by definition is t minus t wall by tm minus t wall. So at wall theta will always be 0, that is the definition of theta. But it does not depend on whether it is constant wall temperature, constant wall heat flux, whatever. It is just a simple English sentence, T equal to T wall at wall. So nothing more than that. So if that is the case, then that is what that has been utilized here. So we need to close this problem by putting some additional constraint. What is that additional constraint? That additional constraint is the definition of bulk mean temperature, which we have not yet used. We have not yet used the definition of the bulk mean temperature. Maybe we will do it here. So now use the definition of Tm. This rho Cp is constant for this problem. So we cancel the rho Cp part. So we can write what is integral of u dA, that is u average into A. So we have integral of u by u average. What is dA? dA is, so if you have a parallel plate channel, like this, so what is dA? So at a distance y, you take a small strip of width dy. dA is dy into B. So dA is dy into B, and A is B into 2H. So integral u by u average, in place of T you can write Tm minus Twall into theta plus Twall. You can write, you can change the variable from y to y bar by putting this h within the derivative. So it will become dy bar. This is the function f, and integral from minus h to h is 2 into integral of 0 to h, because it is symmetric in the two sides. So that 2 and these 2 will cancel. So this will become integral of f theta into Tm minus Twall dy plus Twall right. We have absorbed the y by h within the derivative. So if that be the case, then what is, can you tell what is integral of f dy? Non-dimensional. See, f is what? F is the velocity profile. So integral of f dy, non-dimensionally it will become 1 from 0 to 1, right, because integral of u dy is u average into the height. So u by u average into integral of dy non-dimensional is 1. So this is from the condition that u integral u dy is equal to u average into 2h. So u by u average integral, this will become 1. So this is equal to 1. So we can say that Tm minus Twall is equal to Tm minus Twall into integral of f theta dy. That means integral of f theta dy equal to 1. This is the constraint. So theta will be, now you can write f2 of Nusselt number and y bar. The functions f and f2 are completely known, so this will tell you what is Nusselt number based on h. Now normally we can calculate the Nusselt number on the basis of h, but engineers prefer to use a length scale which is called as hydraulic diameter. So what is hydraulic diameter? If you have a circular pipe, you have the actual diameter, but if you do not have a circular pipe, there is nothing called a physical diameter, but something equivalent to the physical diameter is called as the hydraulic diameter. So for a circular pipe, what is the physical diameter? Let us do it here. So what is the area? Area is pi r square. What is the perimeter? 2 pi r. So what is area by perimeter? So how can you get diameter from here? Multiply by 4. So this becomes diameter. Okay. So 4 into area by perimeter for a circular pipe is the actual diameter. For a non-circular geometry, that is some effective diameter which is called as hydraulic diameter. So hydraulic diameter, let us write it here. Is 4 into area by perimeter. So what will be the hydraulic diameter for a parallel plate channel? The half height is h. Area by perimeter we have already calculated. What was that? H. So 4 area by perimeter is 4h. So the Nusselt number based on hydraulic diameter is the Nusselt number based on 4h, that is 4 times the Nusselt number based on h. And if you evaluate it with all these numbers, I have given the outline, but if you now evaluate the value, this value will come out to be 140 by 17. So this is your homework, 140 by 17. Okay. So if you, so I have given the full framework. In this framework, just you have to do the integrations, integral f, f1, f2, all this, and once you substitute, you will get the value of this. This is the, so we can see that the Nusselt number is a constant for thermally fully developed flow. For this example, this is the value of the constant. We will stop here and we will continue in the next lecture.